Now, depending on what you're trying to harvest, if you're trying to do this because you just want the belly, you want to make sure you are going all the way up against the bone. And I'm just doing these small strokes. I'm controlling this the whole way. I'm making sure that I'm not doing any broad strokes because I don't want to mess up the integrity of the belly. You can already start to see what you see in the stores when you see fresh belly. Or even bacon, when that part here is nice and caramelized and this is just nice and light and pale. So you can already see it's got the characteristics of bacon right there. And again, I'm trying to harvest most of the belly, so I want to make sure I'm going right up against the bone. If you want to do a bone-in braised belly, I'll show you in a minute. I'm just going to take these down. You can just come right down here, all the way through the ribs, either with a saw, maybe a hatchet, maybe a bandsaw, whatever you got. You know, not everyone has a bandsaw at home. I don't have one either, but my wife may have one. It's on my Christmas list 3 years in a row. Yeah. But, so actually what I'm starting to hit right now, I've gone past the rib line, and you can see the rib lines. This is the ribs right here. And underneath you start to see these little lines right here. This is cartilage. This right here is where the bone ends. And this cartilage supports the breastplate, which is right here. So this guy was here, okay? So that bone right here is what comes right across. There's a little bit left right here, and it only goes halfway through the diaphragm.
All right, question?
Yes?
100-pound pig, how old is it?
100-pound pig?
Yeah.
Probably 4 months max. I mean, if that. You know? I mean, suckling pigs are only... Most pigs, commercial pigs, are usually slaughtered about 10 months old, 10 to 12 months. And because of the way they're fed and the way they're raised, they'll average anywhere between 300 to 350 pounds. I mean, as you can see, I'm not getting a huge yield, okay? I mean, this right here, this is your pork belly. This is where your bacon comes from. I would go ahead, I'm gonna peel this off. This is that fell that I'm talking about. And you can actually peel some of that right off with your hands.
How much does that pig cost, the whole thing?
This guy? I don't know, I didn't buy him. I have to talk to my budgeter. No, this guy was like 200 and something, I think. It all depends, you know, it all depends on the farmer. It all depends on where you get. I mean, you could probably get, you could go to, I can't remember his name, down at the Grove. He's got huge, lots of different sausages. I can never remember the name of their farm.
Huntington.
Yes, thank you. He can get you whole pigs, but you know, I think they come from somewhere like Colorado or something, and you know, they could, you know, be just mass produced, and you can get them as cheap as, you know, $1.50 a pound. You know, with something like this, I mean, where we get it from, I mean, the farmer goes through so much in raising that pig that they're not cheap at all. I mean, you're talking $5 a pound for a whole pig. That's a lot of money. It is a lot of money, but you're also supporting a larger cause than just eating the pig. You know, I'm not gonna lie, it's very hard to eat local, sustainable, you know, all natural, organic. I think everyone knows that. I mean, we all live in California, and that's the way of life here. But if you truly want to support it, there's ways to go about it. You know, and also when you buy a whole animal, don't think you have to eat the whole thing right away. Some of these cuts freeze really well. And, I mean, I'm not a fan of freezing, but things like the shanks, things like the belly, things that you're going to braise or, you know, cook for any kind of long period of time or grind up, it's okay to freeze it because it's not going to change the texture of the tissue fibers of the protein. You're going to break it down. You're essentially going to destroy the tissue fibers anyway. Something like a tenderloin, like a chop, that you want to keep fresh for sure. So there we go. That's the belly there. And actually you can see what's intact there is the skirt steak. That runs along here. That muscle supports the diaphragm as well. So are you guys familiar with hanger steak? Yeah. Okay. So you're not going to really see it on a pig because they always take it. It's not very big at all. But on obviously a cow, hanger steak hangs about right here. Right where these two fingers are. And it's roughly about 2.5 pounds, 3 pounds whole out of a whole steer. And what that muscle does is actually help support, again, the diaphragm of the animal. So between the skirt steak and the hanger steak, it helps support all of those organs, the stomach and everything in there. And the reason why it's so tender, when you when you cross-cut it. It has to have the tissue fibers going in a certain direction to be able to support the weight of all the organs, but they're so tender when you cross-cut them, you know, because they don't move. They just sit there, just like a tenderloin. You know, I mean, they work, but they're not moving like the muscles of the leg. So, what I'm gonna do, I'm gonna go ahead and take off the ribs.